Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We begin with mystic song by Sri Swami Lalitananda, played and sung by Sri Swami Umananda, Rajneesh and Sri Nilakantha.
Our song tonight is based on a poem by Swamiji. It's called O Krishna.
O Krishna, may I dream of you, dancing with me on the grassy banks of the Yamuna River. O Krishna, abide in my deepest thoughts and unspoken feelings, singing the melody of eternity. May my soul merge with you. May my waking hours be filled with the sweetness of your being. May my life flow on like the Yamuna River, sparkling with your spark, merging with your divine love. In the depths of my heart, O Krishna, may I ever abide with you.
We are recording from the ashram of our revered Guru, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda in Miami, Florida. Today is May the 4th, 2018, Friday evening, and tonight Swamiji will be lecturing on the Tulsi Ramayana. This is series 2016, class number 103. And now, Pujya Atman Sri Swami Jyotirmayananda.
Om Nilambuja Shyamal Komalangam Sita Samaropita Vama Bhagam Panavu Maha Sayaka Charu Chapam Namami Ramam Raghuvanshanatham. Allusions to Lord Rama, whose complexion is like a blue lotus, very tender and delightful in appearance. Sita is seated on his left side. He is carrying a powerful bow and arrow in his hands. Sri Ramcharitmanas, well known as the Ramayana, Balakanda, and we are working with verse number 251. You remember the context in the story. All great kings belonging to three types of personalities: godly, human type, demoniac type. All three types had gathered the best of that time. For what? Drawn to Sita. But there was a condition. Sita can be married to only one who can break Shiva's bow. Remember, I have given you subtler meaning. All these religious stories, they are not a study of history. Many historical things have happened, amazing. But that study has nothing to do with your practical life. What helps you is to understand the subtle meaning, subtle intention behind the scriptures. Sita Devi represents Viveka Buddhi. That type of intellect has two stages. Intellect that gives you information of the world, makes you intellectually great, with big PhD. How many things you know? And subtle intellect, that's intuitional intellect. The difference between the two is like very gross illustration. Caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Butterfly is nothing. He's turning into swan. Intellectual knowledge is caterpillar with 1,000 legs, 1,000-footed worm, crawling all over, but gaining nothing of the world. No matter how intellectually advanced you are, gather all the knowledge of geology, geography, astronomy, and science, and all the names of the big scientists. All that you can have, but still you are crawling upon the earth. Intuitional knowledge allows you to have intuitional understanding. What's all this? What's the reality? Who am I? But in order to have that knowledge, you have to break Shiva's bow. Shiva's bow means earthly pull. There is a pull that is drawing your soul to the world of time and space, to the world of repeated cycle of birth and death. That's the best every individual wants to have. The earthly pull is immense. All through your life, what are you thinking about? Always some problem comes in. Day by day you go after solving the problem. What type of future you want? When your problems will not be there. And you will live without problem in a house that won't break down, at least for 1,000 years. And have a long life. See, mind imagines that would be a great thing. And to the masses, if that is possible, there will be nothing great. But from profounder point of view, you must understand, no matter how long can you exist in the world, joyously, not a headache even for a single day. Nevertheless, it ends. You don't believe it? Look into history. Thousands of years have passed on, which is within the purview of human mind, the study of science and all that. They always refer to this has started 10,000 years back. But what I'm trying to say that time itself, you cannot conceive of a beginning. There's always, think of million years before. Ask another question, what would be million years prior to that? So there is no end to it. The relativity of the world. So therefore, the intellect that breaks this illusion, that enables the soul not to come back, that intellect is Sita Devi in a storyline. And all the kings who have come together, they come as so many souls. All souls want to have that intuitive knowledge to attain liberation. In human being, Purushartha becomes effective. But a human being is a blend of demoniac level, human level, divine level. Asura, human and divine. And I will not go into too much detail. That point I have explained to you. Asura level means lower self. Lower self that wants to drag you down. Then you have human level that wants to have lots of warmth of relatives and friends, but stay stuck to the word. Divine level that wants to build up profound, rather more sattvic impressions. So even if you die, there is a period of time where you can enjoy living without body, but enjoying through a conditioned mind. All this will be many details, and I'm not going into that at this time. So, all these types of personalities, implying simple, the whole world of humanity, all over, every human being as well as every soul has this same target, to attain liberation. But as a human being, you are in a more effective type of self-effort. You can't imagine dogs, etc., studying scriptures and practicing pranayama. But they are also souls who have been human beings, led by their karmas, they go into different embodiments. That's the whole big story. You study science, then Animals take thousands of years to get into further their evolution. In philosophy, in mystical world, a dog today dies, next birth he comes and can attain enlightenment. He can be higher, at a higher level than you. Not underestimating anybody. So that's the way mind that is spiritual sees things. Coming to the central point, soul must come to that stage of spiritual strength and spiritual enrichment that it does not have fascination for coming back into the world. If that stage has come, the proof of that stage is the pull of worldly attraction he is able to neutralize. That's dramatized. Rama has to break Shiva's bow. Why it is Shiva's bow? It's also God's plan. Souls that are not ready, they must be given all opportunities for their evolution. But when you become ready, the same divine plan gives you a trial, a stage where you are tested. And that stage of testing is brought out in the Ramayana as big bow that has to be broken. King Janaka's daughter, who is considered the most very essence of all beauty and charm and grace. And so far in this story, they all exercise their muscles. They went dancing and beating their arms, showing their muscles, thinking it was such a simple job. Many started vomiting blood. Many fell down in a shock. And so forth. It's a big drama. But that drama is going on in all personalities. Everyone wants, all want the same thing. Happiness. Pure happiness. Happiness that is unending and absolute. But you can see, hopping for happiness, how many break their legs? How? I'm talking in a figurative language. How many go into big trouble in the name of happiness? And create a lot of karmas that tumble them into lesser stages. And that experiment goes on with the masses. All want happiness. Answer lies in gaining spiritual knowledge and being able to have that type of inner strength that allows your mind not to covet things of the world, but the mind that is drawn to pure understanding, Sita. Sita term also comes from the Sanskrit word sit. Sit means sharp edge. That goes into the story of King Janaka. He allowed the plough with a sharp edge, and it touched a little jar inside, and from that Sita emerged. I'm not going to that big detail, but the basic part. That sharp edge of your intellect, as long as it goes after objects of the world, it has a dull edge. It doesn't break illusion. But if you have a sharp edge, it breaks the illusion. And you begin to see the reality. So, it's an allegorical way of saying Viveka Buddhi, intuitional intellect. Intuitional intellect that shows the difference between the self and the not self. You are always a blend of both, but you are unable to see the difference. That state is ignorance. All through the day, one is identified with the physical body. Lots of problems, from the toes to the head, there are lots of problems. And that's not sufficient. Your mind is caught by all relations. And then your mind is like foxy, is also interested in why normal relations? Where do I come from? So you have the whole fascinating project of discovering your root heritage. I'm joking, but that's that I am, that's not real I am. When you go to sleep, you're not aware of your body. You're not the body. You're not the mind, not even ego. What happened to your identity? Therefore, who is the real I am? And it starts with your intellect, but if your intellect is sharp, it will not sit with the intellect, it allows the intellect itself to undergo a change. Intellect itself allows a process by which, in other words, as you bring in devotion, integral yoga in life, your intellect turns intuitional. कहु काहि यहु लाभ न भावा, काहु न शंकर चाप चढ़ावा, रहु चढ़ाओ बतोरब भाई, तिलु भरी भूमि न सके छड़ाई. Who wouldn't like to be married to Sita? But no one was able to accomplish that task. They were unable to even shake that bow, even for a little fragment of an inch. Much less they could go into another stage, lifting the bow. The third stage, bending the bow. And the resultant stage, breaking the bow. All this is spiritual movement, different stages. When lot of sattva has gathered within you, then you are able to shake the bow. You have the possibility to understand that you have the resources. If you work upon them, you can attain liberation. That stage of understanding means you have shaken the bow. But now lifting the bow. If you prepare yourself to be experiencing different steps of yoga, yama, niyama, asana, coming into more samadhi level and ascending in different levels of samadhi. When you do that, you have lifted the bow. When you come to that stage where all the illusion about the world has broken, and you are in a stage you will never come back. You will simply go up. You have no other choice. If you have come to that stage, you have broken the bow. Because now you become enlightened. But coming back to this story, old King Janaka, father of Sita, waiting to see that someone breaks the bow, and then his big project of having his daughter married will come to a conclusion in a nice way. His wife Sunayana is also seated among people there, audience, in a special way. She is the queen and with her friends. She is also deeply interested in seeing that her daughter gets married. But each time big things come and fail, it hits the heart of the mother. Why this husband of mine, Janaka, made this big vow? Now my daughter will remain unmarried. Shocking situation. अब जनि को माखै भटमानी, वीर विहीन मही मैं जानी, तजहु आस निज निज गृह जाहु, लिखा न विधि वैदेहि विवाहु. King Janaka began to scold all people, showing his frustration. All of you, no one was able to lift this bow. Not even just move the bow even an inch. Breaking the bow, see, that's a far distant goal. Now, none of you should brag about your strength, because all of you have been proven coward. Not God-word, coward. There are two words there, God-word, coward. And that coward becomes kair, Sanskrit word. Tajahu asa nija nija griha jahu, likhana vidhi vaidehi vivahu. Go to your homes now. Give up this big aspiration to marry Sita. Brahma, the creator, somehow has missed that plan for having Sita married to anybody. That also has a subtle reality, that attainment of liberation is not within the realm of creator. You go beyond Creator. Creator is that aspect of God who is keeping souls in the world of time and space. But now you don't need that aspect of God. You want to attain liberation. You want to attain liberation, nothing of the world can help you. You have to have extraordinary strength, extraordinary support beyond the world. Simple way to understand, if you have love of God, bhakti, it's beyond the world. It's extraordinary. If you develop jnana, vichar, subtle understanding, I am not the body, that also is extraordinary. That does not come in the creation of Brahma. No karma can make you enlightened. Karma can give you circumstances. Thinking process is not based on normal karma. The spiritual thinking I'm talking about. It is a movement to end karma, destroy karma. Sukritu jai jo pan parihari hum, kuwari kuwari rahau ka karahum. If I give up my vow, that I will not do. I will not sacrifice my virtue. Let this daughter of mine stay unmarried. The world is devoid of heroes. जो जन त्यों पे बिनु भट भुवि भावी तो पनु करि को त्यों न हसाई. If I had known the world has no heroes, I wouldn't have put myself in this ridiculous situation. This called spiritual scolding. This point is brought out in the scriptures. Gita says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Among thousands of human beings, very few come to develop certain spiritual quality. They become spiritual aspirants. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam vetti tattvata. And among those thousands of those rare people, some realize me. So realization of God is aimed at by millions. All hear about moksha, etc. Why not? But among all those, and they also take up various disciplines in the name of religion, etc. Some go in a completely perverted way. I'm not talking about them. They are heading towards hell. But some not perverted, but not clear about what is spirituality. And they begin to count their spiritual success by being able to have little acts of intuition. Someone has come and without her person's telling, you say, oh, you have eaten an onion? I'm joking. And the person says, how did you do that? you must be a big yogi. I'm joking, you must realize, even if you are able to perform amazing things, foretell things beyond your imagination. Even you are able to do that. And there are people who are in different degrees. Once you know that somebody has that type of psychic power, thousands and thousands of people go after to get their disease cured or their misery alleviated. But that's not the picture of liberation. You are able to do all this, but that's not liberation. Because all this has created in your mind a big inflated ego. I'm the biggest yogi. No one in history was like me. That's not liberation. So among thousands of those people, very rare people, present themselves as humble, saintly personalities. Their power is amazing. Their power changes human heart. And changes culture. This is the point brought out in the Ramayana. In this, by that, it's kind of illustrated form. What Upanishad says, that among countless people who strive, very few seem to attain certain success, but among thousands of those, very few actually gain access to the movement that leads to liberation. This is not to discourage people. Even in ordinary education, in any grade, hundreds of students join in. But how many get the first class first? It's simply explaining the amazing quality of attaining liberation. जनक बचन सुनि सब नर नारी देखी जाने की भये दुखारी. Hearing these words of King Janaka, all men, women who had collected in that big arena, they all became in despair. माँ के लखन कुटिल भई भऊ हैं, रदपट फरकत नयन श्री सौ हैं. But Lakshmana, this big suspense is broken by Lakshmana personality. First his eyebrows curled up. कुटिल भई भाव है. And second, his lips begin to vibrate. Third, his eyes became red. All the energy moved towards his eyes. This is again another illustration of to advanced aspirant who is highly sensitive, having read the scripture, instead of becoming frustrated that I cannot accomplish it, instead of that, he the will aspect of the personality suddenly begins to raise its glow, radiate its valor. It acts like a banner. It's the banner in the chariot that first people see fluttering. Then they see the power of the person who is in the chariot. So the will aspect begins to express in a very uncontrolled manner. कहीं न सकत रघुबीर डर लगे बचन जनुबान नाई राम पद कमल सिरु बोले गिरा प्रमाण. But no matter how vibrant and full of energy the will may be, it always stays under the control of Rama, under the control of wisdom, Jnana. However, he didn't wait for Rama to give him permission. He simply bows down his head before Rama. And he begins to speak out, loud speaking. रघुवंश सिंह महु का जहाँ को होई तेहि समाज अस कहई न कोई. Wherever anyone is there in the line of Raghuvanshis, in the line of sun god, Suryavanshi, this type of a scolding should never be done where there is anyone there from this line of Raghuvansh. In the historical way, people will go into all the story of who was Dasharatha, who was Dasharatha's father, etc. Great people. But dropping away from all stories, simple point is, Raghuvanshin are those who follow the path of Uttarayana, the northern path described in the Gita. Agnir Jyotirha Shukla Shanamasa Uttarayanam. Living your life with increasing Vairagya, that's the first step. Then you belong to the Suryavanshi, because ultimate goal is becoming merged with the sun, absolute light. How does it start? It starts with fire. Bring fire within you, Vairagya. Don't be cozy with illusions of this world, like the bears in the Alaska. I'm joking. Get fire, Vairagya. Vairagya itself makes you vibrant. All the energy within you doesn't stay stuck. You begin to utilize them. You are not living to stay with the world forever. Your goal becomes to attain liberation. Puts you in a totally different track. Jyoti, along with Vairagya, now develops discriminative intellect. Real I am is God Himself. This ego I am is a monkey choking my throat. How am I to make this monkey your pet? And ultimately be free of this monkey mind. If that type of insight develops, it's called Jyoti, Agnir Jyoti. Third point, day-to-day life becomes deeply involved in a spiritual process. So you don't live your life with a sense of boredom. When will 50, 60 years pass, I will retire. Boredom after boredom. Every day is a day of amazing flavor if you have real understanding. The question of waiting, that doesn't arise. So that's Uttarayana describes, after you have come to that, Shukla, moon rises in the firmament of your heart. Feeling begins to shine. Bhavana Shuddhi. And then you enter into a process of expanding horizons of consciousness. Your consciousness begins to expand. Just like, allegorically speaking, the period of daylight goes on increasing as the northern path of the sun sets in. It's called Uttarayana. It is described with the allegorical picture of how you have that period during the year where the day goes on increasing until it reaches the longest period. That's only symbol, nothing to do with day. It relates to consciousness, how it goes on expanding until it gets into infinite expansion. And the soul becomes merged with the sun. Soul has been a ray of the sun and it has become entered into the sun. If you have that type of life, you are Raghuvanshi. And if you are Raghuvanshi, you are bound to break the Shiva's bow. This pull of the earth will not come in your way. It will break down as if you are lifting a flower. Allegorically. That's what Lakshmana declares. कही जनक जसी अनुचित बानी विद्यमान रघुकुल मनि जानी. King Janaka has spoken this. His statement that is improper. Because here in this assembly there is Rama, the crowning glory of this solar race. Let me give you a little suspense. रघुबंसिन्ह महु जहाँ कोई होई तेहि समाज अस कहई न कोई. सुनहु रहानुकुल पंगज भानु कहूँ सुभावन कछु अभिमानु. Then Lakshmana says, first addressing Rama, O Lord, I'm just expressing my simple nature. This is not the voice of egoism. If I have your permission, I can lift the entire universe like a little ball and blow it away. Seems like a big statement, and it is a big statement. But if you understand it properly, that's your mind becomes fascinated by liberation and has proper qualities. The idea, how can I move away from this big world? That question doesn't arise. This big world is a world of shadows. If you are riding in the chariot of sun god with the project, sun rises with the project of driving all darkness away. And if you were to question, how can sun god drive all those darkness away? That means you have not understood what the sun does. Sun doesn't have to drive anything away. It has to simply shine. That which doesn't exist, you don't require muscles to go after it. Snake on the rope. You don't have to bring sticks or rocks to kill that snake. Simple understanding there is rope, that's enough. The reality doesn't require any more effort. Just to remove your misunderstanding. And that's what Rama does. But in illustration, because he's being presented for the masses, the whole project of attaining liberation through fascinating story. So Rama, addressing Rama, Lakshmana says, the willpower within has that possibility to come to that stage of viewing the entire world and all its pressure and all its burden as nothing. Put all the darkness together and all its burden and it's nothing. Kache ghat jimi daron phori, sakau meru mulak jimi tori. Put the entire cosmos and I can break it like a clay pot that has not been baked. I can break down the Sumeru mountain just like a little radish. What's this old bow before me? Nath jani as ayasu ho, kautuk karo biloki so. O Lord, if I have your permission, I can demonstrate my power. And let these people watch. Kabala naal jimi chap chadhavam, jo jan sat praman lay dhavam. Just like pulling a lotus stalk, which is very tender. I will lift this bow and make a big show. I will run with the bow lifted for hundreds of miles, all before their eyes. Tora chhatrak danda jimi, tava pratapa balanath, jauna karau prabhu pada sapath, karan dharau dhanu mahabhanubhat. And I will break that. Like a mushroom. Not the well-developed mushrooms that you get from the market. Mushrooms of the rainy season. With little rain, very tender little mushrooms come from the roots of the trees. And you can simply kick it and they break down. With that spontaneity, I will break this Shiva's bow. Everyone begins to imagine the project. But the simple point is, your life presents lots of challenges that come like Shiva's bow. It seems that problem will not be lifted. If your mind doesn't have that Lakshmana's vigor, then it's impossible. Every challenge breaks your head down, or at least scars it. But if you have that proper willpower and love of God within, then it is no longer a kind of a challenge. Rather, it is an opportunity to display your strength. Figure that out. Adversity can be frustrating, humiliating, crushing. It can as well be invigorating, awakening your energy, giving you the opportunity to show your strength. So that's facing the life and the world with that type of change in your understanding. That's the beauty of spiritual movement. It doesn't come all at once, so one shouldn't be frustrated. But that's eventually, that's where you begin to experience that faith can move mountains and grace can do wonders. Wait, watch, and wonder. Don't be crushed by thunder. तोरो छत्रक दंड जिमि तव प्रताप बलनाथ जौन करो प्रभु पद शपथ करण धरो धनु बात. I will break down this bow, like that mushroom of the rainy season. If I don't do that, in your name, O Rama, if I am unable to do it, I will never touch a bow and discuss. Lakhan sakop bachan je bole, dagmagahini mahi diggaj dole, sakal log sab bhoop derane, sinhar harashu janak sakuchane. This emergence showing through Lakshmana is described further in a poetic way. The earth began to shake. All the directions, they are as if held by divine elephants. So think of something in the empty space, big earth, and There are 4 corners of this whole earth, and each corner is a big elephant supporting the earth. And that's how the old-time story about the earth present. The whole earth planet is sustained by divine hands. Those hands are like big elephants. The elephants are holding the. But now when Lakshmana spoke like that, those elephants began to shake. The earth was going to go beyond their grip. Highly poetic description of the world that you are so fascinated about. The entire world is going to be shaken away. That's what spiritual aspirants are introduced to when they take sannyasa. You are given the initiation. Bhuha sannyastam maya, this entire world in the physical plane, I have shaken it off. The entire world of feeling aspect, shaken it. And the entire world at the level of intellect. And then the sannyasi visualizes all this along with the sun is trembling because the day he takes that vow. He is no longer coming to this world. Farewell. When you say farewell, things that you farewell, they exist. But here, here farewell is different. Complete negation. There's a difference between 2 types of adios. And when Lakshmana spoke like that, Siyahi harashu, Sita Devi, her heart was filled with joy. The Viveka Buddhi is waiting for the right soul to have this blend, to have this real climax of spiritual movement. And King Janaka, who is the embodiment of scriptures, scriptural knowledge, his potential source, his Videha, bodiless. Now he had started scolding aspirants. But seeing Janaka, the Lakshmana, speaking such heroic statement, he becomes shy, sakuchani. And with this I will conclude. The story is not going fast. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukma Bandhanan Mrityor Mukshiyama Mritat Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashchid Dukha Bhag Bhavet Om Shri Ramaya Namah Om Shanti Shanti.
Now is the time. If anyone has a question, don't be shy. Raise your hand and we'll bring you the mic. Any question that's on your mind that Swamiji can help with?
Om Tat Sat, Gurudev. I have two questions. One is on the adorations to Guru. It says, vast like a ether, infinite, eternal, beyond all modifications. Can you give me an example of a modification?
Rope becomes snake. This modification. When due to lack of understanding, in darkness, the rope is mistaken to be a snake. So what you are seeing is modified by your ignorance. The whole world you experience is a modification of consciousness. You are aware. In dream, you are aware of so many things. All your awareness is real. But all the things, details that you see, modification. You watch a cinema show. The screen is real. But all the show that you are seeing is modifications. Another word is used with modification, illusory modifications. In practical life, you deal with real modification. You leave the milk for a night outside, it becomes curdled tomorrow. It's a real modification. When there is real modification, you can't go back to the the natural state. You can't go backward. Because the entire world experience is illusory modification. Therefore, when ignorance is destroyed, you attain Brahman.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that. I have a second one and last. And this one has to do with the Gita chapter 10, verse 6. The 7 great sages, Saptarishis, and the 4 ancient Manus were endowed with my power and born of my mind. These progenitors came forth all the living creatures of the world. Can you explain that?
This is simply allegorical way of saying that all souls have come from God. If you understand that, then those are details. You can group them in 7 stages, group them in 10 stages, they give, depending upon different angles. 7 sages, they relate to 7 steps of wisdom. And souls, according to their different levels of evolution, they go into different levels. And all those are created by God.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Swamiji, for the lecture. I'm a teacher, and I'm often talking about the Dharma, but I find that when I teach and the way that I live are not in alignment. And I have a saying that my Dharma and my Tao are not in alignment. And I struggle with doubt because I can see the path, but I don't feel like I'm following it very well.
Thank God. First word. If you have full knowledge of Dharma, you will not be following the path. You will not be there to follow anything. Life is always progressive movement towards the climax. This progressive movement puts you in a stage of feeling that you have not gained all that you wanted to gain. 2 ways of understanding this. It's a healthy way if you see things with a more mature mind. A person who has, say for example, a person has many defects and feels I'm very healthy. That's the lowest, dull wit. Now, when maturity begins to develop, the person says, yeah, I used to be so happy. Now since I started satsang, I have so many things to think about. Karmas, etc. What I'm trying to say, as sensitivity grows, mind feels that way. But in spite of all that, teaching others is not dealing with the same. Your stage is not exactly the same stage of others. So you are effective in disseminating. Even things that you say and you have not attained it, but you know that it is good. If it is coming from your heart, it will have double purpose. You will flow towards that ideal by teaching that to others. You are strengthening your movement. It's just like you are going to a trip and you are going to go to a particular mountain, a mountain peak, and you are well educated, so the people around you say, look, that's the mountain. You have never gone there, but you have the knowledge. So you are being benefited as well as others are being benefited. Simple moral behind it, that don't be discouraged in sharing. Sharing your knowledge with others is a part of effective sadhana. Because whatever good that you share, that goodness develops in you more. You are more benefited. And as you are benefited, you are blossoming. As you blossom, you waft. A blossom does not have the problem. Am I wafting correctly? I'm not yet full bloom. Figure that out. Okay?
Tomorrow is Thursday, so Swamiji is not with us.